We're looking at a very interesting katana. Mutsu no Kami Kaniyasu was a maker that worked in the 1600s, and he has the nickname Hidari Mutsu, which Hidari means left. And the reason for that is that he signed his signature with a mirrored image. The characters in the signature are reversed. The first step is always judging the shape of the sword. It's very, very straight. And this is what's known as Kambun Shinto period shape. And during that period, they required the swords to be straighter because the function at the time was to draw them standing up and not only use them in a slashing motion, but also to pierce armor. The next step is then to judge the temper line, which is the hardened cutting edge along the blade. When the sword is heat treated, the maker will put a pattern along the edge, which is unique to his school and to his style. And then when the sword is quench hardened in the water, that pattern will crystallize and it becomes hard and stiff along the cutting edge. And by judging the cutting edge on this blade that I can see, it's in a style similar to what I would expect for the school. But what's interesting with this particular sword, it's of a higher level of quality than I might expect for this maker. What you tend to see in the highest quality blades is that the cutting edge will be consistent and bright for the whole length of the blade, which is something very, very difficult to do when you're heat treating the sword. And there's a lot of what they call hataraki, which is activities running through the steel, which is grabbing this crystalline structure and kind of dragging it across the steel in all these patterns. A Japanese sword, in order to be able to fulfill its function, not only has to be able to cut, but it also has to be able to take a blow. If the whole thing was heat treated and hardened, as soon as you hit something with it, it would just shatter because it would be so brittle. The Japanese had an ingenious way around this in that they would firstly forge two billets of steel, a core steel, which was softer, and a jacket steel, which was harder. And then they would combine them together. And that softer core is giving flexibility to the sword. And the other way around it is that they would coat the blade in clay when they were heat treating it, which would insulate the steel around the hardened edge. So when it was heated and then quenched, that would remain softer. There's a much thinner application of clay along the edge. And so when it's heated, it absorbs a lot more heat along that edge. So that clay is almost acting as a separating line, and everything in the hotter part along the edge is going to harden more with that crystal structure. This is what's known as a Koshirae. The Shirasaya is almost like the sword's pajamas. That's where it goes to rest, to keep it clean and rust-free. And the Koshirae is like the sword's business suit. It's getting ready to be used. It would tie onto their obi, their belt here. You can see underneath this, what's it called, ito, which is wrapped around the thread, is this bumpy white texture underneath, and that's actually made from ray skin. So like a stingray or a shark. It's unusual to still have the original blade and the original Koshirae when it was made together, but that's what this was. They would often replace the Koshirae throughout history. A sword this old, which is 700 years, might have had 5 or 6 Koshirae in its time, and several Shirasaya. Every time the blade was restored and polished, it would have a new Shirasaya made so that it wasn't damaged by the old one, which might have had a build-up of rust or gunk on the inside. What I'm doing now is just going through how to remove a sword from the Shirasaya, which is the plain scabbard. What you want to do is you want to use just some pressure applied to the palm of your left hand here with your thumb. All you have to do is hold it here towards the edge and just push off with your thumb and it should pop out. And then when you draw the blade, you're trying to draw the blade along the curvature of the scabbard. Just a nice fluid motion. Next I'll remove this, which is called the makugi. It's a peg that holds the tang in the handle here. Push it out with this little tool called a makugi nuki. At this stage, instead of yanking the blade out, you want to just place your thumb right here on the edge, push up against this metal collar which holds it in place, and then tap your wrist with quite a bit of force and it'll just pop out and your thumb will catch it. Then you just go out like that. Pull the habaki off this metal collar, just slide it down as gentle as possible, and at this point you can wipe the oil off the blade. Very important to keep the blade oiled. The oil stops the steel oxidizing, which is what causes the rust. So we just wipe it with a clean tissue just to remove the top layer. Once you've wiped it with the tissue, which will remove the bulk of the oil, but it won't take everything off. There'll still be a light coating, which you can take off with a microfiber cloth. So if you were to put the sword on display, or if you're appraising it, admiring the workmanship, you need to take the oil off. And then when you're done, you need to reapply it.